A few months ago, WWE 2K16 hit the store shelves, and it wasn't a perfect wrestling game, but it was a lot better than 2K15, making it a very competent wrestling game for the current generation of consoles. However, there was no competition. Until now, as we now have Star Wrestling ReGenesis for the PlayStation 4, and it's only $20. You know what, I can't even hype this game at all. This is one of the worst wrestling games I've ever played. I can't even, like, fake a smile thinking about this game. This game is horrendous. But I'm going to review it anyway. Where do I begin with this monstrosity? Number one, it's $20. I'll tell you right now, you would have a much better time just taking a $20 bill, ripping it up, putting it on like a salad, and then eating it than you will with Star Wrestling ReGenesis. This game is a remastering or sequel or something to Star Wrestling, which was available on the PlayStation Network on the PlayStation 3. Admittingly, I never really tried it out, but I saw it and I thought about it, but I ended up not having, I guess, the money at the time. Lucky me, but I had the money now, so I picked up Star Wrestling ReGenesis, and I've been regretting it ever since. This is by far one of the worst wrestling games ever. I mean, this makes WWF Attitude, WCW Mayhem look like decent games. In fact, if you're fans of those games, you may enjoy Star Wrestling ReGenesis because it feels like we've gone back to the 5th generation of game systems when it comes to the gameplay in this game. The game prides itself on being a parody. The thing is, a parody has to be humorous, funny. If it was poking fun at wrestling cliches or wrestling overall, it'd be okay. What this game is it's a ripoff of a game. It uses wrestlers in it. In fact, there's only 8 wrestlers in the entire game. Let me repeat that. There are only 8 wrestlers in the entire game. Each of them have 3 costumes to unlock, which is basically a color change palette. In fact, there's more arenas in the game. I think there's 11 arenas total, like 4 unlocked at the beginning, and you can unlock a bunch as well. But there are more arenas in the game than there are wrestlers. That's a problem in of itself. And if it was a really great wrestling engine, of course that could be forgiven, or maybe even customization options, but those are nowhere to be seen in this game. All the 8 wrestlers are parodies of actual wrestlers. I just want to list off the names, and I kind of remember. You have Andy Organ instead of Randy Orton. You have Curtis Angel instead of Kurt Angle. You have Iceberg instead of Goldberg, Greg Hardy, Harvey D. And then the most brilliant one, you have Ragnarok instead of Brock Lesnar. He's the only one who got kind of a more original name. There's also a mixed hybrid of Dynamite Kid and Pegasus Kid. Chris Benoit and Dynamite Kid kind of fused together as you have Pegasus Kid or Pegasus Dynamite or something like that. In fact, I honestly shouldn't even be remembering these names. It's atrocious. They kind of look like the wrestlers that they're trying to emulate. In fact, a few of them look really close. In fact, there should be a lawsuit happening, especially the one that's based on The Rock. I think his name's Johnny Maivia. Like I said, if this is a parody, it's supposed to be humorous. Maybe the wrestlers would have funny lines that parody the actual wrestlers, or something of humor in here, but there's none to be seen. It's just a rip-off bunch of wrestlers in a really bad wrestling game. There is a total of 8 different match types, so 1 for each wrestler in the game, 2 of which are unlocked. The last man standing and first blood matches you have to unlock. But included within the 6 match types, yeah, you have your Falls Count Anywhere, a submission match, a no DQ match, and then you have the greatness that is a pin match. Have you ever wanted to play a game where a wrestling match where the only thing you can do is pin? In fact, I've been able to do that in older games like No Mercy for the N64. You could just turn pin on and turn everything else off. It was in the match options, not a different separate match type altogether. So it kind of tries to pad the match types by having something like pin match. But it's extremely lackluster, and you can still edit some things like the time limit, turning on and off rope break and the like, but it really doesn't change up the type of matches that you're going to be dealing with. Now, what could have made the game a parody is a story mode that kind of like mimicked wrestling story modes and had some like funny or stupid types of storylines that you ended up playing through as your main character. But no, you don't have anything like that. In fact, the only kind of actual mode in the game where you have like single player progression is the challenge mode. There is a total of 16 challenges in the game that each are broken up into 8 different matches amongst the 8 different wrestlers. So do some math, you can figure out how many times you're going to be doing the same exact matchup over and over and over again. And the match types basically break down to you have a couple of different goals in a particular match. It may be do this wrestler's finishing move, do this particular wrestler's move, and then win via this, either submission or pin, or do a finisher and then a pin. Sometimes you have to beat a wrestler within a certain amount of time. Make sure that you don't get hurt enough, or make sure that you've hurt certain body parts of your opponent to a certain degree. It's a lot of fun and enjoyment trying to beat these wrestlers so quickly when it's such a clunky game in general that it really gets difficult to actually do so. But you can tweak difficulty. I give it credit. You can tweak the difficulty. You can actually set the type of AI if you want it like more aggressive, or if you want it kind of just, more laid back. You can also adjust how much the AI is able to reverse or not, which will help out, especially after you get frustrated pretty quickly during the normal gameplay, or you're just fed up and you want to complete the game. Lower that thing all the way down. Defaultly, the characters reverse quite enough. In fact, it seemed like from challenge to challenge, even though I changed nothing in the settings, the difficulty fluctuated all over the place. One time a wrestler wouldn't reverse at all, and then the next time they continued to reverse no matter what I ended up doing. I didn't see any really rhyme or reason in the description for why that was happening. It just did. I just chucked it up to, it's a terrible game. One thing I haven't even talked about yet is the actual wrestling in the game. And I've saved the best for last as far as this game's concerned, because, oh boy, it barely functions. It is, if you thought clipping, when your characters are going into one another or going into objects, was an issue in games like WWE 2K16, 2K16 is perfect. It is a 10 out of 10 in comparison to this game's collision detection. Animations are all over the place. Now, I give the game a little bit of credit. The mimicked wrestlers have their finishing moves and other types of moves that they're parodying from the real wrestling counterpart. So Iceberg is going to have a jackhammer, and Curtis Angel is going to have the Angle Slam or Angel Slam or whatever the heck. I think it's actually the Uncle Slam, which I actually think was the Patriots' finishing move, the full Nelson Slam. Anyway, I'm getting off track because I just don't even want to talk about how bad this game's wrestling is. It's so clunky and so broken. I was glitching all over the place. I did a move like against the ropes or near the ropes. I ended up going through the ropes, like completely just fall through the ropes. Trying to get back in the ring sometimes, I ended up glitching and flying into the air. I had other moments where I barely punched a wrestler and they just went flat, like with no animation or anything, just in the air. Sound effects are all over the place. There was tons of times where I would do a move to a wrestler, no sound would happen. And then do a move and then all of a sudden, boom, there was a sound effect of the wrestler hitting the mat, or if I was doing an elbow drop onto a wrestler, then finally some sound happened. But that was really sporadic. Heck, I had one time where I got out of the ring, the other wrestler grabbed me for like a submission hold, and then out of nowhere, the submission hold broke, but I couldn't get up. The opponent couldn't move either, so we just stood there until we both got counted out. There is no way playtesting went into this game. There is just no conceivable way that someone played this and said this was a good wrestling video game. I have played all wrestling games. I probably played almost every wrestling game that has ever existed. Played all like the really amazing ones, like of course Here Comes the Pain and WWF No Mercy, some of the Japanese only ones like Virtual Pro Wrestling, and I love the Fire Pro series. This game is along the lines of WCW Backstage Assault. In fact, I think I had more enjoyment with that game just because of its absurdity. I mean, it had so many wrestlers in it in the most nonsensical matches of all time because they were all backstage hardcore matches, but honestly, that was more fun than what I had with 5-Star Pro Wrestling ReGenesis. What makes this even worse is they're capitalizing on an actual UK wrestling company that's actually doing like a 5-star wrestling tour or something like that. Unfortunately, I don't have all the exact details. So they're capitalizing off of that name in order to put this game out there to think maybe some people will pick it up. In fact, I think even Rey Mysterio did some kind of promo. In fact, when I looked up the game, I came across a video for Rey Mysterio talking about it, but I honestly didn't even feel like watching the video, so I don't know if he was talking about the actual event or the game. And by the way, he's not in the game, nor is a parody of Rey Mysterio in the game, so there's, I guess, really no connection there. Also, the game is a remaster or a sequel or whatever. This was a PS3 game. If this is a remastered, I can't even imagine what the game was on the PlayStation 3. I am so happy that I didn't actually play that one, because I may have gone completely insane. This game, I can't overstate it, and I've said it 1,000 times probably already in this video, is awful. It is horrible. But I guess the joke's on me. I bought it, I played it, I'm reviewing it, and hopefully this review reaches the few, tiny amount of people that were even considering picking up 5-Star Pro Wrestling ReGenesis on their PlayStation, booting up PSN, looking for new games that just came out. You're a wrestling fan, you see that, you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe it has customization options. Maybe it's like a new Fire Pro Wrestling style where it doesn't use, you know, in the North American versions, they never had real wrestlers. They were kind of like knockoff parody versions of them. Maybe it'll be fun. I just hope that this review reaches those 3 people in time. Buy WWE 2K15 over this. Go back to your N64, buy Mayhem, buy Backstage Assault, buy WCW Thunder, WCW Nitro. In fact, those games actually are so bad, you may not want to pick up those, but you get my point here. 5-Star Wrestling ReGenesis, I am giving a 1 out of 10. This is nothing more than a matte stain out of 10. Just a nasty, disgusting matte stain after like a Bastion Booker Mean Mark Mest match. You want to see something like, go watch a Mean Mark Mest match. Now that's a big guy. I'm getting off track again. This is an awful game. Don't play it, don't pick it up, don't even think about it. In fact, after this video, never think about it again. In fact, I hope I can get over the trauma that this game was. But that's going to wrap up this review of 5-Star Wrestling ReGenesis. I didn't enjoy it, but I hope you enjoyed this view. Thanks for watching.